So, Keanu Reeves will reprise his version of Constantine, or Constantine, depending on how you want to go. Apparently, Constantine is the more appropriate pronunciation. Yeah. But anyway, since this is quite the altered version, maybe it's just stick with Constantine. But anyway, there's several elements of significance here with this. Had heard rumors about this possibility for quite some time, just to go to show that there was a lot of people interested in it. Most notably, Keanu Reeves himself had often said he would like to return to that character. And he's enjoying a resurgence in popularity, most notably because of the John Wick films. His return to Matrix wasn't all that great, but no one really holds him responsible for that. So maybe this will work out better. Obviously, it's far afield from the source material with his take on it. Matt Ryan easily that's as close as you're going to get to the actual comic book character. And really as close as you're going to get to any comic book character. That was pretty spot on with his take on it, despite the rather cheap venues he had to work with, which again is not his fault. And it's just unfortunate. This was a character I think he could really run with, but it didn't happen that way. And there was other factors. Bad Robot stumbles into this, nearly destroying everything, but it's looking like that's not going to happen. One by one, I'm beginning to wonder if any of their DC projects will happen. I guess like an offshoot of the Batman with Matt Reeves involved, in control of that, then I guess you can count that as one of their achievements. But that's more or less him on his own. But the Keanu Reeves version of the character, it was an interesting film. I didn't hate it. There was a lot of elements, but cool about it and all that sort of stuff. And I don't see it as a bad movie. It's just a comic book guy watching and saying, couldn't they have done Well, they didn't, and there was no follow up to it. So I guess it was just sort of a mediocre success, perhaps. And that was it. And, of course, hardcore fandom for Constantine, it's like, they probably wouldn't have been interested, even though a lot of the elements are there for the nature of the story. By comparison to what was supposedly the version that J.J. Abrams was headed for, it just has no relation to it whatsoever. And I don't just mean the race swapping. He wanted to get rid of all the religious elements and everything. It's like... the demonic possession and everything is that's kind of the main course for it. So in that respect, a Keanu Reeves version is far closer to the core of the character, the aspects of the stories and adventures that a Constantine character would endure is far more closer and accurate within Keanu Reeves' version than it would be from a Bad Robot version. So that's really the best news about it. Of course, J.J. Abrams will still get a producer credit on this one, but I think that's about all it is, as this is another bit of example of his power, the Bad Robot power, waning and evaporating before us. It's quite too late for quite a few beloved franchises, most notably Star Trek, which they're clinging to and desperately trying to get off the ground, and I think that's done. But anyway, so just to toss him a bone, because his network and hooks are in everything, but as the power begins to wane, eventually that'll go away. This reunites Keanu Reeves with the original director of the previous film. It's more their project. Now, why do this on the behalf of for Warner Brothers and their Warner Brothers Discovery now, with their supposed 10-year plan to make DC their core main billion-dollar projects? There's the resurgence of Keanu Reeves' star power, and people like him because he's a very likable guy. and his John Wick movies have done a lot for him. I don't know if they'll try to make this John Wick in fighting demons. Probably, I don't know. And the overall audience might go for it, but that's the more bankable risk for them as they try to revive Warner Brothers and their film product. And the thing about it, does this mean that the Keanu Reeves version of Constantine is now the DCEU Constantine? So if they still want to pursue Justice League Dark and have that somewhat linked to the superhero movies with Justice League and Superman and Batman and all that, that's likely. A lot of these, there's still the standalone separate projects. So Matt Reeves, the Batman, and the Joker, but these are holdovers from the previous regime. Meanwhile, the Warner Brothers Discovery with Zaslav, the main focus is to bolster up the DC shared universe cinematic project. And so a lot of outliers would be canceled and scrapped, as the main focus would be on that. And so any new projects and stuff, unless they're really cheap or whatever, probably wouldn't happen, at least for a while, until this thing is successful. It is bringing in basically a surplus of cash that they could play around with other projects and whatnot, and probably get back to spin-off TV series and whatnot for streaming and all that. But for the moment, they need to bolster and build the foundational empire of DC, if you will. And so having the Keanu Reeves star power, and that it's a new project, even though it's a sequel to what's established in that movie, but basically what that movie establishes for itself, there's nothing there to say that, no, this couldn't possibly happen within the shared universe. No, it could. It's after the fact, but nevertheless, you just weave it in there. And so that's the deal. And so now you have a new, well-established star, a favorite for moviegoers, helping out with broadening this DC universe thing. Now, how much Keanu would be available for, like a Justice League Dark and whatnot, we'll see. But there again, the focus wouldn't be on him, so he probably would be to do some scenes for a film like that to fit in what the comics have done with the character. And you've already, with Black Adam, there's a lot of mystical and supernatural elements to a story like that, where it involves sorcery and whatnot being the origin of the Shazam powers and stuff and that sort of thing. And Dr. Fate is in there. And so they build that out. Now, I'm guessing the Dr. Fate, played by Pierce Brosnan, will probably be handed off to the Khalid Nassour character. But however they do it, these are the characters that walk in that same realm of the supernatural that Constantine does, and these are the type of people he would interact with. So the beginnings could be there, not that there's this actual already made up plan and okay, here we go, Constantine 2, and then we'll move to a Swamp Thing film, and then we'll get to a Justice League thing. But the points there are available for them to get to. And this might be part of the overall 10-year plan. So, but, the Constantine film has to be successful. If it bombs terribly, then a lot of that stuff, well, we'll just forget about that and we'll concentrate on, Superman and Batman or whatever. But, yeah, I think they probably will make him a DCEU character, because I think that's in fitting with this idea of consolidating the DCEU under this main priority and objective as of now, whereas basically the Batman and the Joker films are the only ones that'll be their own thing for the moment. And so that's a real possibility. So finally, the main, again, as I already addressed, the aspects here of the evaporating power of J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, which is long overdue because the damage done is pretty severe for quite a few properties. But out of this, it's his version of Constantine and Madame Xanadu, and eventually there was supposed to be a Justice League Dark featuring these characters. Madame Xanadu was going to be referred, the title would be Madame X. For HBO Max, well, that's gotten canceled. just like with the cartoon. The Batman cartoon, I think, has more of a shot on some other service, whether it's Netflix or Amazon or something like that. It's probably very likely you'll see it. But these, they're saying, oh, we're going to shop them around. And I mean, you want his crappy, not Constantine, even worse, derivative, race swap thing, just to slap it on there just because it's a bad robot product. That's not going to sell it, And meanwhile, the big budget movie with movie star Keanu Reeves steamrolling in with the character, it's just going to pass on it. Madam X, they're like, who? I mean, the only other version they've seen of that was in the Swamp Thing a TV show that they did that died after one season. It's too bad. It had a lot of possibilities to it, but it had a lot of flaws. The Madam Xanadu there was really old, and then they had a chubby Phantom Stranger. It was so it had its flaws. Swamp Thing looked good, but he was basically a guest star in his own series. But as for what Bad Robot would do, nobody wanted to see. So this is probably the best news, even though, yes, J.J. Abrams will have a credit for the Constantine movie. I think that's just to toss him a bone for any kind of trouble he could cause along the way. But other than that, that's about it. I think the odds are he won't have much creative input on it. That'll be up to the director, Francis Lawrence. Akiva Goldsman, who's had he's had some real stinkers. Quite a bit, actually. But he's had some winners. And, between Francis Lawrence and what Keanu wants with this, perhaps they can cobble something together for this, supernatural thriller type film. And then we'll see if it's actually fitting in with the shared universe. Based on what Zaslav himself has said, I would assume that would be the goal. And so there you are. So, yes, I'd rather there not be any bad robot involved, but it may not amount to much. It's just like, they tossed him a bone and that's it. Because Bad Robot's power is going up in smoke. So odds are you won't see any of those projects come to light. And that's a very good thing. It's too bad about Matt Ryan. I think he would be better. As much as I like Keanu Reeves, I think he would have been the obvious choice for a Constantine film or series. But the problem is he doesn't have the star power, and Warner Brothers needs excitement and stuff, and so they're going to go with the big star, and that's Keanu Reeves. And hopefully they can put together a great film, and it adds to a strong DC shared universe at the theater. So there you go.
Shh. Bad reboot.